Cheers.
Hey Toby.
Hey Steph.
Das ist schon wieder so deppert.
Hi Stefan.
Hi Toby.
It's an honor to meet the writer, director, producer, editor and colorist of farblos.
Maybe put colorist in brackets. It's not the main thing I did.
Yeah. Now that we're recording this one week or 1.5 weeks before the premiere on the 27th of December 2019. And yeah, how do you feel?
I'm very excited. I really can't wait to show it to everybody. I'm really looking forward to the reactions. Also, I'm a bit afraid.
Yeah.
Because you set the bar really high with your film.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's the second Heroes Move film, which is super lovely because now we can count.
What is Heroes Move?
Thank you that you remind me.
Yeah.
Heroes Move is us, but it's not only us. It's a team of young artists and filmmakers, not only in Austria anymore, but in Europe, so to speak. And we do at the moment short films together that thematize current changes in our society, so societal changes in strong character-driven narratives. Yeah, and we're a growing filmmaking team.
But a feature is on its way.
A feature is obviously on its way. Probably when this is out, we already finished the shooting for the third short film. Yeah, in the dark. Hashtag the film that makes you blind.
Hashtag the film that makes you blind.
So, farblos, which means acromatic in English.
Mm-hmm.
It's a film about a young artist who paints and also struggles with mental health issues. How did you come up with the title?
Okay, so funny story to the title. The first title that I gave the film, which was a working title, was Black Hole. Because in my research for the film, I talked with people about depression. Because I never suffered from depression. Really grateful for that. One person described it as this black hole that eats everything up. You can't do anything because there's this massive hole that drains you of your energy and you just really can't do anything. And so I thought that was a really fitting title. Mm-hmm. And then it changed from black hole to white hole because the white of the canvas that is the most frustrating part of a painter.
Yeah.
When there's just white on the canvas. So I thought, we combine the depression with the painting, and white hole is really, I think everybody would get it, the connection. But then I realized I'm making a German-speaking film. Why on earth would I give it an English name? And so I was like, yeah, that's really stupid. Now I have to come up with a German name. And I think that farblos, acromatic, really has the same meaning, because when you suffer from depression, there is no color in life. Life is drained of color, and also it fits in with the painting again, and it's a one-word title, which I think is always nice as well, because it's catchy, you remember it instantly. And yeah, so that was the main idea behind the name. Cool. And also, white hole and black hole sounds like the name of a porn. So I just couldn't do it.
As you said, okay, the title connects painting and the theme of depression and being depressed because there's no color in life. Are there any other parallels between being an artist and having depressions? You connect these two things in your film through your protagonist. How do these two things fit together?
Because people who make art and who create, they need to be very sensitive. Mm-hmm. And I think it is this sensitivity that sometimes then makes you more vulnerable to those things, to actually getting depressed, to being sick. There's obviously a connection.
Both is an emotional experience, more or less.
Yeah, it is an emotional experience.
Yeah.
Because you put yourself into your artwork, and obviously then this translates very well.
What did you put into it? You as Stefan. Except the protagonist's name. Literally.
Yeah, so maybe let's clarify this. The protagonist's name is Stefan, my name is Stefan. Is this autobiographical? No, it's not. I was sitting together with my friends, Alex Ertl, shout out to Alex Ertl, and I was writing and he was working on a theatre play, and I was like, I don't know what to call my protagonist. I want to give him a name, like a really everyday guy name, because depression is something that can hit anybody. So I gave him the name Stefan because I think of myself as an everyday kind of guy. And so yeah, that was the motivation behind this. To come back to your initial question, what did I put into the film? Well, I was never depressed. So this is not a film that captures my emotional experience. I put into this film though my love towards art, and because that's something that really resonates with me, and that also really resonates with the characters, and I hope that people get the feeling of this vocation that you really have to do it, and that's something that I connected with a lot in the writing process as well. I just love doing art, and I have to do it, and I have to make films, and just like this guy has to paint.
You always also put the experience of you seeing somebody else being close to you, suffering from depression. So that's probably also something that you probably...
Oh yes, yeah, because the character of Marlene, which is played by Aldina, she's Stefan's girlfriend, and she tries to get him out of this hole. She literally pulls him out of the hole in the beginning, and because you also feel sort of responsible for somebody else who suffers from it. I mean, in reality, it's not your responsibility, and you just have to support this person in the best way you can possibly do. But it's really hard to distance yourself sometimes, because you try to help this person, but sometimes you can't, and you have to accept it. And this is also something I think that Marlene learns in the process of this film. Not saying that she's doing the right thing for everybody involved, but yeah, it's very difficult to deal with somebody who suffers from that.
Your target audience wasn't only people who suffer from depression because they already know what it is about, but it was rather showing the people who don't know anything about depression and to get a sense of it, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that was more of it.
More of it, yeah.
For people to get a grasp of what it is like to be depressed. I hope I portrayed it in a way that people who actually suffer from depression can agree that it feels similar to this experience. I mean, a lot of the film is really sort of artsy visuals that I thought of that would make a clear picture sort of what it feels like. So there's 2 layers of narratives, and one of the layers really is just about showing the emotional path he's on, because most of the time you're depressed, you don't do anything, you just sit there and you suffer in silence. And so I wanted to take this silent suffering and put an image to it.
I think you did a good job, especially with the images. From what I know, from the writer's perspective, it's really important to do your research, to do one's research. So I know that you did some research. What kind of research did you do? And if you could talk about the process of you learning about the topic, getting aware of it, getting to know more perspectives on the topic, and then implementing it in the script.
Okay. So first of all, as I said, this film got inspired by a person really close to me. So I've watched this person degrade and then come up again and degrade again, and so I had this experience of being a really close witness to somebody who is suffering from depression. And I mean, we talked about this person's experience with depression, but it's not enough. So what I did was, because at the time in uni I was also writing a thesis about depression in a film. So I had to do a lot of research on the types of depression and how a filmmaker can translate them into the making of the story, how this affects the environment, and how this might change the narrative. And so I had to do a lot of, first of all, because I had to diagnose the character in the film, I had to do a lot of research on depression itself. And so that's what I did. I read like all the books that there are, like all the books. I read some of the books that there are, the most important ones. I think it's the ICD, I don't know exactly the name anymore. And then I read some more books. Then also, obviously, I talked with the person who had depression, but I also met with other people who suffered from depression. And we talked about their experiences. There was one person who described it. It's like in Get Out, when the protagonist falls into the void.
Get Out, the film written and directed by Jordan Peele.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, that's a really strong image. And obviously I can't do the same image. But I also met with a therapist and we talked about depression and sickness. How does a therapy session work? Because I didn't know, for example, that a therapist can't prescribe you any medication. You need to go to a psychiatrist to do that. And I tried to implement that in the story as well, because I really wanted to make an honest image about depression, because that was my main motivation in the beginning. And maybe it's confusing in the film when the therapist says, have you talked to your psychiatrist about this? But I thought, oh, maybe this is something people don't know. I think it's just raising awareness of these little things. I don't know.
These are the little things that, people don't know usually, and then question it when watching the film. Why is the therapist talking about a psychiatrist? Like, isn't that, what's the actually difference between these two things? Why does he have to go to both of them? What does that mean? Etc. So you got the scientific perspective through uni. You got your own perspective through seeing someone suffering from it. You got the therapist perspective and the perspective of the people who actually suffer from these mental health issues, which is I think a quite good overview about the topic.
So in the writing process itself, of course I was anxious that I was going to screw it up. I wrote the first draft and I talked with other people about it. It was it was a process of getting it right, because you don't want to get it wrong.
Having directed Farblos now, your first real professional short film, what was the thing that you learned from the experience of directing Farblos, and what are you scared of now for the next shoot?
So I think what I took away from, and I already knew that from the beginning, is that I have to be really, really, really well prepared.
It's also something that I learned. Like, I was good prepared, I think, for my first short film, for Film d'Auteur, but it was like, the better you're prepared, the easier and smoother the whole process gets. It's really all about pre-production and preparing and getting a plan and
So I really realized how much preparation is important. On one side, you have to know the script. I mean, obviously that was easier for me because I was the writer as well. But sometimes things seemed so clear to me, and then one of the actors was like, "But why?" And I was like, "Yeah, but it's so obvious." But no, it's not obvious because it's just obvious for me because I wrote it. And then you need to explain things, and then you struggle with the explanation because it just seems so logical in your mind, but when you have to...
Do you think was that a mistake from the writer or from the director, Stefan?
That was a directorial mistake.
Okay.
Yes, obviously.
Okay. So the script was...
I mean, the script wasn't perfect. Obviously, I cut away a lot in the editing room. And thankfully, for example, when we did the rehearsals of the scenes of the therapy, me, Lena and Flo got together and we talked through the script. And then I said, listen, if a phrase feels weird to say like that, you can change it to your character. And I think that was a really clever choice because we did change a lot of things, and which then felt more natural for the people to say, because as a first-time writer really that I was using sometimes language that was just weird. But you don't realize that in the writing process, and I only had like 2 or 3 rewrites, so it wasn't...
Oh, so you shot like the 4th or 5th draft of the script.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is not too bad, because like 4 or 5 drafts are like...
Yeah, but still, I was a shitty writer back then, and I got better with it.
Yeah, you got better now.
I'm better now. But yes, it's the preparation, it's going through the things with the actors, and especially if you're working with non-actors, you need to make sure that you let them discover the role and not try to put them into what you molded the character to be like, because they're not going to be that character.
Yeah.
And I think even with actors, it's going to be that way.
Mm.
You can't really transform them in a way that they have to bring the character alive.
They must understand it. Yeah, they have to understand the role. And
because it's a collaboration, and they offer their view to the character to you, and you have to take that in.
Yeah.
And I think I struggled with that very much in the beginning.
Yeah, I think that's a common problem with writer-directors, because you wrote the script, it's your story, and then you're directing it as well. That you have your vision, and you have it so clear in your mind and your head. But probably people read the words differently, they interpret the characters differently, or they just bring a new perspective to it. So I think that's a more common thing among first-time writer-directors.
But it really motivated me for the next films, because now I'm not looking at it from this perspective. This is my film, sort of, and I'm just gonna make it great. And guys, it's just Stefan, Stefan all over it. Because that's actually one of the things I enjoy so much about creating art, is that it is a collaboration. Yeah. And it's beautiful when you get that feeling of collaboration.
So what are you scared of now for the next project as a writer-director?
Yeah, I think it's getting trapped with questions that I don't have an answer immediately. But I'm not too scared at the moment, because I have a clear project in mind at the moment. Maybe with this project, it's about the staging that's going to be difficult. And then again, working with some non-actors. But I'm really looking forward to it, because I realized in the making of Farblos, I have no need to make the perfect film right now, because this was my first film right now. Obviously, it's not going to be a fucking genius film. Yeah. And the next film is the next film. And I'm 24 right now. I don't need to be perfect by 25. Yeah. This is a process. I want to get better at it. And so I look at it more from a challenge point of view, and it's really motivating if you look at it that way. So I'm not afraid. I'm looking forward to the challenges. They will stress me out for sure.
Yeah, put you under lots of pressure, especially when there's money involved.
Yes. Yeah. But I'm looking forward to that, and I think it's going to be a good learning experience. Nice. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
As we heard in the interview between Flo and you, Flo himself suffered from depression in his life, and his past caught up with him when we were shooting the scenes. And he wasn't sure if he could finish the shooting after the second day. Yeah. You were a friend of him, you were also the director, you put your own money into the project, you were in a really difficult situation. How did you solve it, and was it the right choice? How was it possible to make a right choice?
That's a good question. Obviously, as this film is about depression itself, I cannot ignore when somebody who is participating in this is reliving sort of a nightmarish experience. Yeah. And
it's like the nightmare of the director. Like, it was like literally the worst thing that could have happened.
So first of all, it was very stressful, and at first I reacted completely wrong. I got very angry with Flo. I didn't show it, or I didn't try to show it. No, I was angry at him, because I was like, how dare you take this away from me and make this about yourself? And that was the worst reaction I could have had, because this is a dear friend of mine who's doing me a huge favor by taking this role, and is completely out of his comfort zone, out of his range of experience, trying to do what I tell him. So he's really putting himself out there, and then it got to a point where it was difficult for him, and instead of trying to support him, I got a bit mad. Well, I got mad. Fucking terrible human being I am. So that was difficult, and so I tried to just stay focused for the shoot and try to get it done and try to carry him through it, because I knew I depended on him. And it was difficult because I really wanted to finish this film.
So what did you do? Did you talk with him? The kind of like your directing style changed afterwards? Did you change something in the script? Did you how did it affect the whole shooting process and the whole production process?
So because at first we were in the shooting itself when this first really came out of him, And I tried to just like stay calm and get this day over. And we did that. And then I met with him in the morning and we had coffee. And I was like, hey Flo, how are you? And he was like, not great. We had a really intense talk about how he's feeling and how this is bringing up things. And so I said, listen, your mental health is priority. If you can't finish it, you can't finish it, that's it. But if you can finish it, please let's finish it.
Yeah.
Because I put money in this, and obviously this is not the nicest thing to ask of somebody, but try to maybe focus more on the physical part of the acting and not so much of getting into the mental state. And so that's what we did afterwards. When he had a breakdown on the balcony.
You mean the breakdown in the scene, not like Flo had a breakdown.
The breakdown
role.
Was part of the story.
The character in the film had a breakdown on the balcony.
Yes. Yeah. And so I was telling him for this scene to just like get the breathing right and to play it all over the physical aspects. And because in film, it doesn't matter what the actor thinks. It's just the assembly of pictures that guide the audience through the story, what happens.
And just the thinking is just one technique of several acting techniques.
And so there was no importance for him to be like that. Obviously, we should have talked about this beforehand, but I failed to do so, which was a mistake.
Obviously, he agreed on continuing the shooting and the production, and now we have the film. But what was his reaction when you talked with him in the morning?
Well, this conversation was more about him than it was about the film. I said, look, whatever happens, you can always jump out. If it ever gets too much for you, you can always say, no, I can't do it no more. This is too intense for me. And so he agreed to do that, and that was really nice of him, because otherwise this couldn't have happened. But he put a lot of himself into it. But I tried to really be as understanding as I could with him in the following days and really focus on his well-being. And it worked. Somehow, it worked out, and I've learned my lesson from it. Yes. So let's maybe talk a bit about your camera experience, because this was the first time you've actually had the title of DOP in a film.
In a short film.
Yeah.
I did camera work obviously before.
Yes.
For a couple of years. Probably shouldn't say that, having seen the film. No, it was the first time I was director of photography. I'm honored to add a title, even though I'm not a director of photography. And by the end of the day, I did the job of it, but it's the same thing with calling myself a writer director. Even though I've written and directed now one short film, and then I'll be writing directing another one. Still feels like this big thing of a title you have to like get.
You have to earn
it some way. Yeah. Same thing with director of photography. But you said, "Hey, Toby, you can do it," or you said, "Toby, you have to do it." I'm not sure anymore. Probably was kind of both. In the end,
I just knew I can trust you.
Yeah. But in the end, I really enjoyed the process, because we shot the film 2 months after we shot Film d'auteur, where I was in your position, producing, writing, and directing it, and suddenly I had some kind of pressure, because you being one of my best and closest friends, especially in the filmmaking, in the fields of filmmaking, I thought I can't let you down. Like, oh my gosh, like we have so much history as friends, but also in the filmmaking process. And you saying, "Hey, you do the camera, you're the DOP." I thought, fuck, I can't let you down. So there was some sort of pressure for me, but there was way less pressure than at Film d'auteur, because I had more roles. But now I really could focus on one thing. I mean, it was doing the lighting as well, and I did a lot of things. But DOP was the central thing I did. It was more relaxing for me, but it's super interesting as well, and I learned a lot for my writing process as well, because like getting the frames, how to translate the words into actual frames and shots, and how to edit it together, and like you were director, so you had it in your mind, but I had it also in my mind, how to like which shots do we need to get and how to edit it then. So I remember us having several conversations about that, and also like during the shooting where we're like, okay, how can we solve that problem or that problem, how we can do that later in the editing room. So we had a walk, we talked about it, and then I solved it, yeah, and had a common ground. Really.
And it actually worked
and
out
it actually,
really well.
Yeah, it looks professional. Yeah,
does.
it does. So I'm happy about the output. I mean, I see things where I think, okay, I could have done that better, and that's probably. And then there are other shots where I think, hey, that actually looks pretty, and I didn't think back then that I could do that. So.
Good thing you never told me.
Yeah, probably the thing I struggled most with was actually really the thing that everything was handheld, and the camera was so heavy with the lenses and the monitor on it as well. And we shot like 10 days, like in a row probably. So my shoulder was really hurting already on the second day, and you kept insisting on me making everything handheld. So seeing now the final product, I think like, this is a little bit shaky. And I think now, yeah, probably we could have solved it differently, but there was no time and there was pressure and we didn't have the gear and the equipment. But yeah, in the end, I think the few shots where it's a little bit too shaky, I think don't bother me too much as well, because I think, hey, it enhances the inner life of our protagonist a little bit. At least that's what I'm telling myself, in order to get over it.
So, as you said, you had not as much responsibility
Yes,
for
which was
shooting. So
great.
you had plenty of time to watch me carry all my responsibilities around.
Yes.
Maybe you can tell
Roast
me.
you now.
Yeah, maybe you can roast
Roasting.
me. How was I directing? How was I handling things in your opinion? Because you were there from the start. You've
Yeah.
read all the drafts of the screenplay.
Yeah.
We've talked in pre-production about everything. You were always on my side in the shoot. You watched all the different cuts. Like from start to finish of the project, you were there.
You were so passionate about it, and you kept a high professional standard. And the positive thing is also that everybody else on set, except some people, were like also quite inexperienced, and it was their first time. So it felt like, hey, we're a group of people. We know that we're not the most professional ones yet, but we are passionate about it. We want to say something, and yeah, let's do this and let's get this done as good as possible. And that was the vibe more or less in the whole project, and that's also what the fire in our team more or less that kept burning throughout the production process. Yeah, it felt like a little family in the end, because we were together 10 days each day together from morning to the evening and night as well. So yeah, I think you did a great job and put your personality, which is like really passionate and energetic, into it, which really helped. Your way how you talk with people, that helped. And I think now you learned a lot through the whole process, and you can, like, the next film will be so much better from a production standpoint.
Yes.
And in each little phase, you will already know what was good and what went wrong or wasn't that good in the last process, and now you can enhance everything. And so I think you're in a really good way now, judging it from the outside, being on the same same stage as you are, basically. Yeah. Ich hab dich lieb.
Ich hab dich lieb.
My favorite moment of the shoot. Now, really, even though it was one of the most intense moments of the whole shooting, it was the last day, the last night, when we were shooting with the pig's blood, and Flo was going all crazy, and the blood was everywhere in the room, also on the lens. Sorry, Tom. Yeah, it was so intense, but it was something like...
This is like something you never
so ridiculous. Shooting with 6 liters of pig's blood in your living room with a camera, and a really expensive camera and a really expensive lens right next to it, and Flo like drumming onto the how do you call that?
Canvas.
Canvas. Yeah, that was insane. But that's the kind of stories you're gonna tell afterwards. The people who want to know more about the film. And I like the ending of the film very much, especially with the score. Thanks to Tobias Alexander Radka.
Shout out.
Yeah, it's a really great. It's a cinematic. It's a scene for cinema. You know, it's not like something like you would put on YouTube and then you click on it and you watch it. But I think that's also the things I'm proud of myself as well. That both films of ours are like not short films for YouTube, but they're short films for the big screen, like for cinema.
Beautifully put.
Yeah.
Okay. Basta.